What's up, guys? Today I'm answering viewer questions to celebrate reaching 2,000 subscribers. Coming up next. What's up, guys? Before we get going, I never in my wildest dreams imagined I would have 2,000 followers. 4 months ago, I was struggling to get 200. So, man, just thank you guys so much. You guys have been awesome, and I really appreciate every single one of you. All right, let's get into it. All right, the first question comes from Jordan Dyer, and he said, what is your favorite NASCAR season, and what is your favorite NASCAR paint scheme of all time? First off, Jordan, thanks for the question. Probably my favorite season of all time would be 92. You crowned a real champion because it was a full season worth of points, and B, the championship chase came down to the championship came down to the final race of the season in Atlanta. And Alan Kulwicki won it by leading the most laps, which gave him bonus points, leading a single lap, which gave him another bonus, 5 more bonus points. So that was probably the coolest season ever. Not to mention Alan Kulwicki was basically an underfunded team. It's hard to really explain what he did in today's terms because I'm not sure that anybody could do it, but he was an engineer, so his mind at the time was the way he thought about working on a race car was so much different than everybody else. So just everything about that team was different. And of course, the following season we lost him. So I was really glad to see him get that one since that's the way it ended. And also Davey Allison was in that chase, and we also lost him the following year too. So that season will always be special to me just because it was the last season for those drivers, and it was such a close championship race, and Bill Elliott was in it, huge name. I was an Earnhardt man. Unfortunately, Earnhardt completely stunk it up that year. Like, they just had all kinds of mechanical problems. But aside from being bummed out that Earnhardt wasn't doing good, those three put on a heck of a show for the championship. So that was the best race ever. And as far as my favorite paint scheme of all time, I grew up a Richard Petty fan, so his paint scheme actually got me into the sport. Dale Earnhardt, I pulled for Dale Earnhardt after that. And then Kyle Petty, the mellow yellow car. So probably one of those three. And Davey Allison's 28. That was iconic too. So in any of those four, just pick a day, but probably Earnhardt, just because I was an Earnhardt fan for a long time, till he left us. Arnold Juarez asked, what do you think about Kyle Busch and Bubba Wallace being teammates? First off, thanks for the question, Arnold. I think it could go one of two ways. If Bubba Wallace and Kurt Busch are open to working with each other, I think that Bubba Wallace can certainly learn a ton from Kurt Busch, and this could possibly elevate him. If their personalities clash, who knows? It could be a really, really terrible situation. It could go either way because both of them have very strong personalities. Kurt Busch has obviously mellowed out quite a bit from his earlier days, but he's still got that fire. So this could go either way. It just depends on how they work with each other, but I think it should be a positive. Like, Kurt Busch should, with his experience, he's a former champion, he should help Bubba Wallace out, and this will be the first time Bubba Wallace had a teammate, so it'll be interesting to watch. I think it should help him, but you never know how people are going to work out. I mean, we see it in football all the time. You can put together an all-star roster, but like if those guys don't work together on the field, it doesn't work out. Sort of the same thing in racing. And Tyler Williams asked, what does your die-cast collection look like behind you? So I will play that while I answer this next question. And Shazanrin 2448, I'm just going to call you Shaz. He said, my question for the Q&A is, what teams do you think will excel with the next gen right out the gate? And what teams do you think will take a little time to develop? We've seen in the past, JGR took a half season in 2017 to dial in the new Camry, and it took Hendrick almost an entire season to fine-tune the Camaro. Well, I think that's a good question, by the way. I think Hendrick will be fine. I think Gibbs will be fine. I think Stewart-Haas will be fine. And I think Penske, who I think will jump out immediately will be Penske, because they have, in the past, not their Cup team, but Roger Penske in the past has had a Australian V8 supercar team. And so I think he's got a ton of knowledge on this particular type of car because they won championships over there in that. So I think you'll see Penske jump out and have probably the biggest advantage out of the gate. But I think Hendrick and I think everybody else, Hendrick and Toyota, they'll catch up pretty quick. Stewart Haas would be the Ford team I'm worried about just because they had a down year. But I think that down year is going to motivate them to have an even better year. So they might struggle, but they might, go the other way with it and also have a great year. BJ Morgan said, what is your favorite track and what makes a great track? That is a good question. Probably Daytona, Darlington, Martinsville, or Bristol would have to be in that mix. Probably Old Bristol, before they repaved it and messed it up, was probably my favorite track. But right now, I would have to say it is Martinsville, because Martinsville, it just puts on a great show. There's only one groove. You can't get away from each other. You have to be aggressive to make passes, so I think that puts on the best show. And as far as what makes a good track, I think a good track can be any number of things, but I think one main thing you've got to have is a good track operator. The second thing you've got to have is a surface that puts it in the driver's hands. A worn-out surface is the best because it chews up tires, and when you get tire wear, that's when the driving comes out. So I think an old surface and a well-run track, and it has to be a track where they don't sort of like get away from each other. So I think a short track plays into that too. Now, if you're a road course person, I think what makes a road course is passing zones. Any road course, you just have to have a good amount of areas where you can pass somebody. So I think that's what makes a good road course. But thank you for the question. Good question. Chris Jordan asked, what state are you from? I am from North Carolina. I've moved all around North Carolina, all the way from like the mountains of Boone. I lived up there to almost to the Outer Banks almost. So I've lived everywhere sort of in between. Yeah, I'm a North Carolina guy. And finally, Molten Rage has asked me about 11 questions, so I'm going to pop these off as fast as I can. Question number 1, what is your favorite driver and why? My favorite driver was Dale Earnhardt, and I grew up a Richard Petty fan, and Richard Petty is a close second, but when I was a real little kid, I went to visit RCR, and we signed this little registry. Like, nobody was there. It was I think it was 85 or 86. It's whatever year they were switching over from the Wrangler car to the Goodwrench car. And we just signed this little registry, and I was all hyped up because I just sort of learned how to write my name in cursive or something like that. And so I was hyped up that I got to write my name. And then like a week and a half later in the mail, I got an autographed hero card from Dale Earnhardt. So like after that, it was on. Like the guy could do no wrong, in my opinion, because I was like, man, that's the coolest thing ever. I never met him face to face, but he signed an autograph and sent me a card in the mail. And from there on, I was like, Dale Earnhardt's the man. Current driver, obviously Kyle Larson, but I was a huge Dale Earnhardt fan. Predictions for the 2022 season, the playoffs, winners, losers, and will it be a good season? As far as the playoffs go, I would assume we will have probably a very similar deal to what we had this year. You'll have some surprise guys, and then you'll have, your strong teams will be strong. And I think just like this year, one strong team will struggle with this new car, and one team that you don't expect will hit it out of the ballpark with this new car. So what to expect, I don't know. Do I think it'll be a good or a bad season? No clue, because this new car is totally different, but I'm ever the optimist, so I'm hoping that this new car makes for a great season. Favorite track and why, and what is your favorite race? I already answered the favorite track one earlier, I think, but my favorite race has always been the Daytona 500 and the Firecracker 400 in the summertime. I like the restrictor plate races back in the day. They were always cool to me. I know the drivers kind of hate them, but as a fan, it's one of the most fun things ever to watch. But if I was a driver, I would probably, hate them too. How did you become a NASCAR fan? Well, after church, I used to go to my grandparents' church on Sundays, and all the cousins and everything would gather and eat lunch at my grandparents' house. And they would always have the race on, and just for whatever reason, I got sucked into watching that 43 that it looked like a fluorescent orange on TV, but I guess it was really red in real life or whatever. But that orange and blue Petty car, man, it was the bomb, and I just got into it ever since then. And then they took me to local short tracks around here, Orange County, Ace Speedway, South Boston, and the first race I went to was at Orange County, and I actually watched Ward Burton. First short track race I went to, Ward Burton won, so That was pretty cool. And to me, like, I didn't realize how special that was that he moved up to NASCAR. I just thought that that's what all the guys from Orange County did from there on out. Because in that race was also Jeff Burton, Scott Riggs was running limited, and Carl Long, the owner of the 13 MBM car, he was in that race as well, running either sportsman or actual late models. So, yeah. What's your opinion on Dodge coming back? I think Dodge coming back is a great thing, and I hope it happens. Like David Land said, it's only 80%. So I hope they come back, and I hope Honda gets in there too, because here's the deal. When I made the Honda video, people were like, we don't want to watch any more Japanese cars race, and I think that that's awesome, because for you to have a good storyline in racing, you have to have good guys and bad guys. So if people are going to pull against the manufacturer and make the manufacturer the bad guy, I think that's cool, because NASCAR sort of limits the personalities to an extent. So you can't have good guys and bad guys to the extreme that you had in the 80s, where everybody had a aggressive personality and they didn't really care what they said, because sponsors just let you have more free reign back then. But I think any manufacturer is getting into it, the more the merrier, because it gives more people something to pull for. Like, not everybody drives a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Toyota, so like let's say Nissan got in. If Nissan got in and you drive a Nissan, and you might be a casual fan just because you're like, oh, I drive a Nissan, I'll pull for this guy because he's driving a Nissan on the track. So I think it's cool. The more the merrier. What's your opinion on NASCAR officiating? NASCAR officiating is about as organized as WWE wrestling. Like, some people get this penalty, some people get that penalty. It's just so up and down all across. There's no rhyme or reason to it. This guy gets penalized that, and this guy gets penalized that, and I make videos on it all the time, and you're like, oh, you just saying that because you hate that guy, or you like this guy, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to make the overall point when I make those videos that NASCAR's officiating is just so uneven that they need to somehow standardize it, and I think that would be a good thing going forward. That's the main thing, one of the main things Steve Phelps could work on, among many things he needs to work on, but the officiating, not good. It's just uneven. What is your favorite and least favorite paint scheme? I mentioned my favorites earlier, and I left one out, the Silver Bullet car, Sterling Marlin, and also the Silver Bullet that Dale Earnhardt ran at the All-Star race. Those are probably another two more of my favorites to add. And my least favorite was Rodney Combs in the Busch series driving for Richard Petty back in the day. Like I said, I was a Petty fan, and I was a Petty fan because that car was awesome as a little kid. Well, when I saw this thing on the track, physically, like, shaking mad, because this was the ugliest car, and to this day, this is the ugliest car I've ever seen in my life. It's like somebody went to the junkyard and just got spare parts and slapped it on this car, and then just had some extra stickers they got from a car show or something and slapped them on. This is the most hideous car I've ever seen, and I hope to never see it again. What is your favorite team? My favorite team is Petty GMS and RCR. Those are my favorite teams, and I'll always pull for whatever driver they have there. So I'm always rooting for those guys. And Kyle Larson, favorite driver, so I guess I got to show a little bit of love to Hendrick. But RCR and Petty GMS, definitely my favorite two teams. Who are the most underrated team and drivers? I think probably Colleague is the most underrated team. Like, they sort of came out this year in the Busch Series, or the Xfinity Series. I always stuck calling it Busch Series. But in the Xfinity Series, I think they showed what they can do there, and the fact that they got a win in Cup on part-time, and technically they've got 2 wins, because even though Spire Motorsports got that win, that was a Colleague effort behind that 77 when Justin Haley won, and yeah, I know it was a rain-shortened luck race, but still your crew chief made that call, and Kurt Busch sort of botched it there at the end. But they've got 2 wins in Cup, and they have never even run a full season yet, so I would say Colleague is probably the most underrated team in Cup. As far as underrated teams that have been in Cup for a long time, I think RCR has really turned it around recently. The past 2 to 3 years for RCR, they've really been elevating what they do. They've shown a lot of improvement. They're not on the level of Hendrick and Gibbs and all them yet, but they're closing the gap rapidly. And this new car could be of great benefit to them, and I think they've got a great driver in Tyler Reddick. Austin Dillon has been improving, so I think that team has really sort of been underrated. And they actually, the win that Colleague got, that was an RCR car, so RCR is very, I think they build the cars for Colleague, if I'm not mistaken. So I think RCR and Colleague are underrated. As far as underrated drivers, I think Kaz Grala is probably the most underrated driver. I would throw Parker Kligerman also in that mix. Austin Cindric, I think you're going to see a lot out of him because he's going to have the benefit of everybody's going to be in a new car when he's a rookie. So I think you're going to see what Austin Cindric has next season as well. And just off the top of my head, that's the only ones I can think of. But there's a lot of underrated guys, talent-wise, that I think should be called up. Who's the guy the GMS guy? I can't think. Sheldon Creed. Sheldon Creed's another underrated guy. I think Sheldon Creed should be in Cup. Ross Chastain, I think he's going to be really good. There's a lot of underrated guys. I guess, Ross Chastain's not underrated anymore because people know about him. But, yeah. What do you think about the next generation car? I think they completely copied the Australian V8 supercars. And they look, as far as looking like a showroom car, they look a lot more like a showroom car, and I think that's a good thing. But then if you look at the current Australian V8 supercars that they just came out with, those Australian V8 supercars look so much better than the next gen Cup cars. I really honestly just wish we would take, if we're going to copy the Australian V8 supercar series, then just absolutely take their car, because the car that they came out with recently looks exactly like the road car, like exactly like the Mustang, exactly like the Camaro that you see on the street. I mean, they are absolutely sick. So I liked them until I saw the Australian V8 supercars, and now not so much. And especially with the freaking number being moved, the number being moved forward, I understand it's for sponsorship stuff and like that. But you can make it look a little bit better. You ain't got to move it like all the way till it's touching the wheel. Like, the new number is absolutely terrible. But the car itself looks better than the older car. But once you see those V8 supercars, it's not even close. If you're going to copy something, just copy it all the way. And so we can look good like the V8 supercar series. And finally, why did you start your YouTube channel? Oh, man, dude. That is a long story with some drama to it. But just the Cliff Notes version. I was doing a show with a dude on YouTube. I came up with the idea for it and all that, and he stole my page because the only thing he did for the entire show was make the page. So he had the number for it. So he locked me out of my account, kicked me off, and I had all this equipment. And so I decided, you know what? I'll just start talking about NASCAR like I do with my friends around the water cooler at work, and it just sort of went from there. And like I said, for a year, those that have been watching for a year, nobody watched it. And so I did it because I enjoy it. And I still do it because I enjoy it. But I'm really super, this is a good way to end it. I'm really super appreciative of all you guys who subscribe and enjoy the channel with me, because I never really expected this, because I did it for like a year and nobody watched. So I was just sort of doing it. Just sort of a crazy person hollering in the wind, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, man, I'm super appreciative of all you guys. Great questions, Molten. Thank you for all those. And that is the last question in this deal. So this is probably going to be a long video, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. But thank you all once again so much. I really appreciate you. I didn't know what to do for reaching 2,000 subscribers, so I watched a whole bunch of other guys, because I never even thought I would get here. So I watched a bunch of other people who had reached milestones, and I tried to see what they did. So that's where this idea came from for a question and answer. So thank you, and if this goes well, we might do another one in the future. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for your time. Peace.